natural. Hello, out there in my TV land. We are back. Our final and most fabulous interview of the day. I'm very excited to introduce this person to some of you and remind some of you of the wonderful talent who is writer, director, actor, producer, in no particular order, George Cantero.
Hi. Can I give you my card?
Please do.
Thanks.
It's a very LA thing. Nice picture.
Yeah, put it up to the camera. Maybe.
There it is. Very distinguished. This is LA.
I'm available for work.
And he is a hoot and just a great pleasure to talk to. So I always like to start my interviews off with the most boring and basic of questions, but I feel like it's good to know a person's roots. So where are you from originally?
I was born at the United States Military Academy, West Point, New York.
You were born at West Point.
At West Point.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's where all the generals went to school.
Okay.
Way back in the 1700s.
Okay. It's just a historic place.
Very.
You kind of carry it in your bones. You kind of carry it. You got to carry that with you. But I always also like to ask about like the journey of an artist, right? Because at some point, maybe in your childhood, maybe your teens, maybe in your young adulthood, you decided or realized that you were somewhat of an artist. And what was that for you, and how did it happen? How did you get on the trajectory of acting?
Originally, I was in a play in Augusta, Georgia. My sister got cast in something, and I wanted to be on there too. So I cried, and they let me on stage. I think I was probably 4 or 5 years old, and it was Tea House of the August Moon. And I was lucky because President Eisenhower saw it, so we were some kids in there.
Wow.
And it was an overnight sensation for a week. You get your name in the paper, and then people forget real quick. But I didn't do anything for several years. I moved to New York City with my mother, and my parents were divorced. And I did some background work in East Side, West Side, playing an autistic kid with George C. Scott, Cicely Tyson, and Martin Sheen.
Oh, wow.
And then my dad got custody of me when I was in 6th grade, moved to Sacramento. I didn't do anything, except once in junior high school, I was in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, playing a dwarf. Then nothing, went in the Army, went to Vietnam, I was a medic there. I came back, and I thought I would do a show just to go to a cast party, because there's always a good cast party after a show. And so I auditioned for Fiddler on the Roof in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and I got cast in that. And then later on, the Army put me in there in Special Services, TUI, for about 2 years. And all we were doing was producing plays for the community. And I was doing lighting and stage construction. Didn't think I would make it, or school. And got out of the Army, I went to New York, I saw an ad in the trades saying the American Academy of Dramatic Arts had auditions. I went there, read, and they took me. It shocked me, but then I started getting professional training. And while I was in New York, everybody said, whatever you do, don't go to Lee Strasberg, because he'll ruin you, those method actors. And I moved back to California in Los Angeles with my dad. I went to LACC, and at the time, it's a Vietnam veteran. They didn't like us very much. And there were some people that thought they were making the world a better place by picking on veterans, I guess, or, just getting rid of them. So my teacher at LACC said, no matter what you do, you're going to get enough in my class because you're a baby killer. And so I walked out and was walking down Santa Monica Boulevard in West Hollywood, and I saw this company. It said Shakespeare Society of America with Thad Taylor. And I went in to volunteer to do lights. They needed somebody. And about the day before the show, this actor quit, or he got cast in the movie or something, and it was Othello, and it was the messenger part. They asked me to come on, and I had to memorize the lines overnight. And I did the show. There was a character actor named Dean Santoro who was real famous with SAG. He's dead now. He's famous because he did Boys in the Band on Broadway. And in that show, there were Siskel and Ebert. One worked for Variety, one worked for the Hollywood Reporter, and they gave me a great review. And, so I got established as a stage actor with that. Went to Lee Strasberg. I heard they were going to do a movie in the future about Vietnam called Apocalypse Now. I kept submitting to the casting director, and they were ignoring me. But I sent about 300 submissions to the production company, to the producer, and to Coppola. And then I did some scene work in my class, and they called up the school looking for a minority to, be in Apocalypse Now, because they were recasting. And Anna Strasberg said, well, we don't have anybody of that ethnic group there, but we got a Puerto Rican, is that okay? And they go, send him in. And I went in and I talked to Fred Roost, who was the producer. And for some reason I got angry. And I, said, you know what you're doing? You're going to make a ton of money off the blood of all these people. I came in and kind of chewed them out. And I was like, I guess having very vivid memories of my time there. He called me back. Martin Sheen was there. It was I didn't know it was a chemistry audition at that time, because I didn't know anything. And Marty and I, we knew each other, but we didn't know from where. And then I found out later he was in East Side, West Side, and I was in it as a kid. And
very serendipitous.
Yeah. So that got me into the Screen Actors Guild. And the movie was, really good. And I'm a creative type of actor. And my line in the movie wasn't much. It was, I got to get out of here. I got money, I'll pay. And then Sheen goes, who's your CO soldier? And I say, fuck you, you'll get what you deserve. I was used to stage. I never did film. I knew nothing about it. And the AD says, okay, Cantero, you're next. When the shot came in, I had a suitcase, and I made an inner life of the character that he was dealing drugs in Vietnam, and so I had a bunch of money in the suitcase, and they wrapped the other scene, and then I ran across the barbed wire and leaped over the different encampments, ran down the bank of the river, tried to swim on the PBR boat, in the river to get on. And Francis was, trying to figure out how to do the transition from the Playboy bunny scene into going up the river with the craziness that goes into Kurt's compound. And that turned into a key scene. Unfortunately for me, my close-up got a fungus in it, so I was just in the master shot. But when you see the Dolan bridge sequence blow up all the time, I kind of designed that particular sequence that was there. And then after that, I was signed as a contract player for Zoetrope Studios, and one of the movies I did was The Cotton Club, with Lynette McKee and Gregory Hines and Maurice Hines, and it was a all-star cast.
It was.
And I played a gangster in it, and I looked pretty dapper back then. And that was the last major thing that I did. Then I went dormant, more out of choice than anything. And then I moved to Canada, and I still kept my, I always kept up with acting classes, studying the technique. And I would do some plays. I can't count how many I did. And I did it just for the love of the art. I never wanted to be a commercial actor. or do something just for money. I always wanted a project that would mean something. That's why I did Cotton Club and Apocalypse, you know, and More American Graffiti. And when currently I produced, wrote, directed, and acted in Shakespeare on the Rocks, which originally was just going to be a showcase for people who were doing Shakespeare monologues, just to show that they could act, you know, and how to do it correctly. And it evolved into a show.
And let's talk about that, because just speaking to you and just understanding your grasp that you have on the Shakespearean language and iambic pentameter, and just how you're able to ground it in a way that's so understandable. I think that more audiences would love Shakespeare if they could just understand what was being said when they go. And it has a lot to do with the actor. And so with your workshop, how do you go about teaching and getting your actors to understand and be able to deliver the language in a way that's palatable for the audience?
First of all, I have them bring in either a sonnet or a monologue, and then I ask them to do, say their lines. Like, for instance, you said you're interested in Ophelia. Do you have any, do you remember anything from it?
I don't know anything from it. I just was throwing something out there. I'm like, I don't know. It sounds like a fun class.
Well, what I would do is, with the iambic pentameter, that is, it's a word, that looks very scary, but all it means is that there's 10 syllables to the line. Now, the thing that's interesting about Shakespeare is for the gentleman class or the royal class, they would speak in iambic pentameter. For the working class, they would speak in prose, just like you and I do. So when you see a character, let's say like I played a gravedigger in Hamlet, I would just speak normally. But if I was, doing Hamlet, you'd go like to be or not to be. That is the question. So question's your 10th, syllable, or not syllable, but the 10th word of the line. So the way to deliver it would be to be or not to be. That is the question. Let it hit. Let people understand it. Next thing is, what's the question? Whether 'tis noble or mine to bear the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against the sea of troubles and by opposing end them. There's the pentameter again. To die, to sleep, to dream. Aye, but in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off of this mortal coil must give us pause. Here we go. Bum, 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 bum. There's a pause in there if you want to, but it gives the audience a chance to understand what you're saying. And so what I would do is, take the people in the class and ask them what the phrase is. What does it mean? If they don't understand a word, what's a mortal coil? You got this marvelous instrument called a telephone, that you can ask anything. So they define coil.
Dilemma?
Coil.
Oh, well, like an actual coil.
Yeah. What is a mortal coil? I don't know. It must be my body. So.
Maybe there's a lot of overthinking of it going on too.
Some people overthink it and they're afraid of it. And once you get the lines down, you can't really act until you have the lines down. Once you get the lines down, then you can act. And what is acting? It's behavior, action, reaction. So, like right now, if you were on a set and you're doing something like you were interested in playing Ophelia, why not take something to eat while you're doing the scene?
Give yourself an action.
Snack. Yeah, an activity, a real one. And you should have an action before you even come on stage. You should know where you're going, and it makes it interesting. And you could just keep adding and adding and adding. Like, how's the weather? Do you have a cramp? Is it sweaty? Are you cold? How's your clothing? How does it feel on your body? If you take like going back, when I did the Cotton Club, the costume was so restrictive because they had the button collars that come
tight
on
to
you,
the top, yeah.
and they were starched, and they would cut into your into your neck, and you'd have to hold your head up like this, so it automatically gave you that great posture. And the ties. So if you look at everybody in the 30s, late 20s and 30s, they were dressed to the nines, and they were all, just perfectly postured people, unless they were crippled. But for the most part, they were, and that would also give you a way of delivering the lines too. You'd be slightly uncomfortable, and that's where people would go, "Oh, they're uptight," or "Oh, they're straight laced." Comes from the clothing or your costume.
Wow, it's just informing.
That's all I do, inform.
That's really okay. So the show, it started out as a workshop. It turned into a show, and it's turning into a documentary. There's so many pieces of this.
Yeah.
And then talking to you, even some of the people who, there are people that you wouldn't think would be. I mean, like you said, there's a lawyer in the show. There's a comedian doing Shakespeare. There's a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds that have come together to do this, and you've gotten the best out of them. I mean, what was the journey like for you?
When I started, first of all, I didn't intend to do anything. A friend of mine asked me to get a place where they could showcase their acting students, and then they dropped out. So I went through all the trouble of getting a place to perform. So I said, what the heck, I'll do it myself. And then I asked some people to come in that were in the classes, and they dropped out. But other people came in, and anybody who wanted to come in, I took. If you wanted to do something, I'd say, sure, come to the class. And then I would ask you to bring in something that you wanted to do, just to kind of see where you were. And then I would stretch you. Wouldn't necessarily give you a part that you wanted to do. I would see where you were, and then I would assign a character or sonnet and have you work on that. And, I worked to what I believed was your ability, but I always wanted to push. So, for instance, the lawyer did not want to memorize lines. And I still wanted him in the show because, he was friendly. I liked him, as a person. I liked everybody in there, all 19 people. It grew. It's a huge cast.
Yeah.
And so I ended up have his character be a person who is trying to audition for the show. He wasn't in the show, and that way he could bring in his piece of paper, which is his crutch, and do his dialogue. But he was a natural, and he delivered the dialogue brilliantly anyway. And by writing that little transitional scene in there, it made it work. Some of the people I had do sonnets, so that.
Oh yeah, and I wanted to ask, with the sonnets versus the actual characters from plays, what do you think was the more challenging for the people? Was it sonnets?
The sonnets are more challenging because you have to create your own world and your own character, hands down. But that's basic training to, do the Shakespeare. If you could make it, do a sonnet, then you could do the characters.
That's interesting. Any pieces that stood out as ones that became your favorites during the process?
There was one piece where one of the characters is in the play King John. His character name is the Bastard. There's a lot of bastards that are in Shakespeare. And a bastard is somebody that was begot without marriage. And they, society's got their thumb on them.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's coming in and he's doing a monologue that starts out, "Mad world, mad kings, mad composition. John, to save Arthur's part in a whole, hath willingly departed with a part." and France, whose armored conscience buckled on him, zeal and charity brought to the field as God's own soldier, rounded in the year with that same purpose, changing the sly devil that broke her league and now breaks the pate of faith. He that wins of all, old men, young men, maids, and having the word made cheats the poor made of that. Anyway, that was a monologue that this other guy did, which was I really like that one.
Mm.
And then the Falstaff character that Tom Anderson played, which is a comedy. He's cuckolding everybody. He's just a horn dog,
Mm-hmm.
and that one was good. And then I liked the opening one with Donna, where she's saying, as an imperfect actor on the stage, whose fears put beside his part, or some fierce thing replete with too much rage, so I forget. And she goes on and doing her monologue, and it set the tone for the show. Because what I did is I took the sonnets, and they got progressively more difficult. Then it went into a monologue, then a scene, then more difficult monologues, then even, greater scenes, until we topped it off with the scene with Lady Macbeth and Macbeth.
Topper of all toppers.
So we did that, and then we ended it with a piece of comedy where this person comes in and he's pretending that he wrote this piece of work. So it goes back to auditioning again. And he goes, oh, let me show you what I wrote. And he goes, all the world's a stage.
Oh.
That monologue. And then my MC in there, she goes, you didn't write that.
That's funny.
And it was funny, so we topped it off with you got to see the show if you...
Yeah, so speaking of, the show will be getting put back up soon.
Yes,
so we'll definitely let you guys out there know if you live in the Southern California area, if you're willing to travel from, somewhere within the state to see the show. The workshops are starting back up. Can we let the people know where to find you?
You can find me on IMDb, or Instagram. I have links to all of my social media, and I have direct contact phone numbers with IMDb.
That's awesome. That's George Cantero on IMDb.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us, George.
Okay.
And thank you out there in my TV land. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Wow. Shakespeare on the Rocks.